Okay, well, we may as well start. And so I'll just, hopefully we've got most of our guests that have joined the meeting. So thank you for joining us today. My name's Cherie Waybeck and I'm from the Public Sector Commission, and I've got Claire Dodd here from the McCusker Centre for Citizenship at the University of Western Australia. So the Commission partners with the McCusker Centre to provide youth with opportunities to work on practical and real world projects and get a taste of what it's like to work in the public sector so that they are in a better position to apply for jobs when they graduate. Hosting interns in your agencies contributes to our youth outcomes for the public sector's workforce diversification and inclusion strategy from 2020 to 2025. So just a few housekeeping things before we're due to start as well. We're recording the presentation today and we hope that we'll be able to make it available on the website afterwards for those who haven't been able to attend. And we ask that if you could please kindly turn off your microphones and your videos today so that we can reduce the noise and interference. We'll send out some information following the workshop as well so that you've got contact information to get in touch with the McCusker Centre afterwards. The format for today will be initially Claire will be speaking and she'll have the slides on the screen, and then towards the end of the presentation we'll be hearing from two agencies sharing their experiences as well. So if you have any connection issues today while you're listening, please just disconnect and try reconnecting, and as I said, just make sure that your video function's turned off. Sometimes that helps. If you've got any questions throughout, you can type them into the chat and we'll do some questions at time at the end. So lastly, before we start, I'd just like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the traditional custodians throughout Western Australia and their continuing connection to all land, waters and community. We pay our respects to the members of the Aboriginal communities, their cultures, and to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So I'll hand over to Claire, and I hope you enjoy the presentation today.
Great, thank you, Cherie, and thanks for hosting us today, and thanks to the Public Sector Commission for their continued support of the McCusker Centre's internship program. It has resulted in many an internship over the last couple of years, which I'll get to a little bit later. So I will just share some slides so we can get started. And hopefully you can all see that now. So I'm Claire and I'm the internships coordinator at the McCusker Centre for Citizenship. I've been at the centre for just over 18 months in a couple of different roles. So I've worked on the internships program for a little while and also taught some of our units, academic units, through the centre as well. So today I'll be talking generally about the centre, a little bit of an introduction, spend most of the time on how the internship program works. We'll feature a couple of key statistics and information about public sector and internships, so you can get an idea of what's happened in the past and who we're working with and what kind of internships are happening. And as Cherie mentioned, we will be talking to two representatives from different agencies about their particular experiences in hosting our interns in the past. And as Sheree mentioned, please do write any questions in the chat. Hopefully I can pick them up along the way. Otherwise, just keep them in mind, and we'll have a few minutes at the end to answer your questions. So a little bit about the centre. It's been around since 2015 and as a result of a generous endowment from the McCusker Charitable Foundation. Our vision is to foster caring, connected and socially engaged citizens who actively contribute to the wellbeing of their communities. So it is the first centre of its kind in Australia, and we're very proud of that. It's still a very unique centre across the country and in the type of activities that we do. So we focus on service learning, and this is about having a positive impact in the community, about having providing service to your communities. And as such, this differentiates us a little bit from some of the other work integrated learning or work experience programs that you might also know about through UWA or other universities around the state as well. As I mentioned before, while the internship program is our flagship program and is the biggest program that we run, we do also have a few academic units or just other units that we run. One of them is called Wicked Problems or Approaches to Wicked Problems, which is a really interesting, exciting unit for the students. They work in groups in a really intensive format to solve a problem for a real organisation in the community. We also have another unit called Making a Difference, Civic Participation and Social Change. And that's our sort of introduction to active citizenship. And now with these units together with our internship program, we now offer a minor in active citizenship to students of the University of Western Australia. This is a new thing and again, a very unique thing, an opportunity that's available to our students. So we're very proud to offer that. At other times, we also offer global internships in exchange, but these are on hold for the time being. And the other program that we have available is our mentoring program, which is just in its second year and just about to start, or just getting started now. So that's where we have very selected students from an application process who are paired with senior leaders from the not-for-profit and government sectors, so they can learn a little bit more about what it's like leading an organisation into having a really positive impact in the community. So that's what we do. And here are some key stats about, I guess, what we have achieved or are achieving. So, and the hours contributed to the community is really what our students are achieving through their internships and other programs in the centre. So that's over 150,000 hours over the last 6 years, over 1,400 internships in that same time. And we have a really high level of positive feedback from both interns and our partner organisations. So over the whole duration of the centre, we've had 96% of our interns and organisations would say that they would recommend the program to others. And last year, despite all the challenges of COVID, we improved in this way. We had 97% of both parties saying they'd recommend the program to others. And we actually continued to grow the program last year, despite everything that was going on. So we're really proud of those achievements. So how the program works, which is probably why you're here. So this is a very, very simple overview, I guess, of how things work. So we have over 300 partners that we work with regularly to host internships, and these are from the not-for-profit, community and government sectors. So what happens is when a partner organisation is interested in hosting an intern, we start a conversation and we can discuss projects that you might be interested in having an intern help you with. At the same time as organisations are preparing their internships, and to do that, it's really about preparing a role description. This very same time, students are applying to our program as well. And we close off both the student applications and the organisation's expressions of interest at the same time. We collect quite a lot of information through the role descriptions as well as the students' applications, and we use that information to match the students to the roles very, very carefully. So we look at not just what the students are studying or currently studying at UWA, we look at their full study history, all their other experiences, work experience, volunteer experience, other certifications, any strengths that they identify, and their interests as well. Because we are focused on service learning, it's more than just getting work experience related to current studies. It's about having, providing service to the community, and therefore we take into account a very holistic perspective of the students. So once the matching process has been completed, we introduce all the interns to their supervisors in their host organisations. We then prepare both students and supervisors for the internship ahead. For the students, they attend an introduction to active citizenship and an Aboriginal cultural awareness training, which are live seminars at UWA. And they also do the compulsory UWA pre-placement program, which is an online module that all students do before they go out on placement from the university. And then once that's all happens, the internship starts. So the interns do a minimum of 100 hours in their internship. And throughout that time, obviously a supervisor, a staff member from the host organisation will support the students, will guide them through whatever project they're working on, and just do a little bit of paperwork, but not too much. So we just have timesheets that need signing off so that we know how many hours students have conducted, and also a mid-internship and end-of-internship evaluation, which are very brief and simple to fill in, but really important, so that particularly in the mid-internship evaluation, students get formative feedback and are able to respond and act on that as well throughout the rest of their internship. So that's the process. Now, I might not be the best person to explain the benefits of hosting an intern. I'll draw on our guests later for a little bit more around this, but just from our experience over the last 6 years and what we've heard and what we've collected through many, many surveys, these are some of the benefits that we understand organisations experience from our internships. So gaining new insights and fresh perspectives from the students, harnessing young people's passion and diverse skills to get a long needed project started or completed, adding value to your organisation and the communities it serves, promoting active citizenship and awareness about community issues amongst UWA students. And I believe a big benefit or advantage of recruiting an intern through our program is that we do the recruitment and matching process for you that is facilitated by us. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you. And there are no financial costs involved in hosting our interns. The only time that might be the case is if you are positioned regionally and there is some travel involved. There may or may not be costs involved in hosting interns in those cases. And I did just dug up a couple of quotes from very, very recent surveys from our supervisors, just so you can hear their words of what I guess the impact that the interns have had in their organisations. And one organisation said, a short-term outcome for us was improving the use of our time and having the opportunity to innovate. A longer-term outcome will be an improvement in the service for clients, as we will be able to make changes to the service to make it better for clients overall. So it's pretty big impact. Another supervisor said, we're not only able to progress various project activities at a quicker rate than normal, but it would also, it was also most valuable to have objective insight into the activities and seek a different viewpoint. So that first dot point that's listed on the slide there, the new insights and different perspectives, is by far the most common piece of positive feedback that we often hear. So that's just a little bit of an insight, I guess, into what you can get out of the internships. And we'll hear more a little bit later. So because we're focused on service learning and not necessarily any particular study field, our students through the McCusker Centre internship program come from all over UWA. So we have students all the way from first year undergraduate up to postgraduate and even PhD sometimes. We also have students from all disciplines and fields. So these are just broad categories of our sort of faculties, but within those there's lots and lots of different degrees and majors and minors. So with everything across the arts, business, law, education, science, health, medical sciences, all across the university, we attract students from everywhere. So this makes it a really unique program, but also provides a very broad range of opportunities for organisations, because students come with all sorts of different knowledge and experience. We particularly attract students who are driven to make a difference. Again, coming back to the service learning component of the program. And we ask students to address this in their application, about why they would like to make a difference, why they would like to undertake an internship through this program, and also what kind of experiences they might have also had beforehand as well. The students are enrolled in a university unit to do their internship. So while they're doing their 100 hours of service with your organisation, they're also attending some seminars and doing some reflective journals and some other assessment items. So it's not just a case of having some work experience, it's a full learning experience. And those, particularly the journal reflections and the final seminar, where they get to speak to other students about their experiences, we hear is a really important aspect of the internship experience for students, because they really get to understand what they've done and the impacts that that's had on the organisation and also on them, and what they've learned along the way. A lot of the students, the vast majority, do it for academic credit, although we do have the option, some students will do it not for credit. That's mainly because they might not have room in their degree, but most students will do it for academic credit. So an important one, which you're probably wondering about, the timing. So we have 4 internship periods each year. We are just wrapping up semester 1 for this year, and we're just about to enter winter. So winter for this year, the 14th of June to the 23rd of July. So that's a 6-week period this year. We then have semester 2 and then summer. So winter and summer are intensive periods. These are around 5 to 6 weeks. Semester 1 and semester 2 are normal university semesters, so about 12 weeks. So that's why there's those approximate days per week in brackets there. During the 12-week semesters, students typically do around a day per week of service, whereas in the intensive periods, depending on how long it is, it would be somewhere between 2.5 to 3.5 days a week. So it's just something to keep in mind, because different projects lend themselves to different types of or intensities of internship. The other aspect is if you happen to be regional, the winter and summer intensive periods are best for regional internships, because students can travel during those periods and they're typically not undertaking other study at the time. And the next, so right now we're recruiting internship roles for semester 2, 2021. And these are due on the 20th of June. So if you are particularly interested, after attending this webinar, you've still got a few weeks to have a think about internships that might be suitable for semester 2 and get in touch with us to talk about those. And I'll just say at this point as well, we, in terms of the time it takes to set up internships with us, the actual creation of a role description can be a very quick task if you know what you're looking for. But we do usually need to start a conversation about what you'd like in terms of internships coming up, at least a few weeks out from the deadline of the role descriptions, partly because we have to sign an agreement between the university and each organisation. Now, some of the state government agencies will already have an agreement in place, but some don't. And you just need to keep in mind that this might take a few weeks to get around any approvals that you might need to seek, and sometimes amendments to the agreement. So it's just something to keep in mind. But if you reach out and we have a conversation about what you might like to do for an internship coming up, you can ask and we will let you know if there's already an agreement in place. So in terms of some examples of projects, so you might have a very clear idea of what you'd like an intern to help you with. But if not, and you're just simply interested and need a little bit of inspiration, these are just a very small number, select number of examples. As I said before, because the students come from all across the university with all sorts of different knowledge and experience, the opportunity for different types of projects is almost endless. So just a few examples here, and these aren't exclusive to public sector, but you can see for the City of Stirling, they had a Bachelor of Science student assess employment and community engagement opportunities for CALD, culturally and linguistically diverse community members. So that was a community engagement type of internship. The Perth Festival actually had an environmental sustainability audit done by a Masters of Professional Engineering student. The Community Arts Network in WA had a student develop an online portal, which had a huge impact for their organisation, actually. That was a really important project. The Men's Resource Centre in Albany had a Masters of Professional Engineering student develop an app for them. We've had the WA Aboriginal Leadership Institute have a student evaluate one of their programs, and that's quite a common request for evaluations, or at least contributing to an evaluation. A few more. So the State Library had a couple of interns, but in one of these instances, the interns researched the role of social services in the library setting. Wengening Aboriginal Corporation had a student do some data visualisation, which, again, this had quite a big impact and was very, very useful for the organisation, from what we heard. Legal aid, some resource development. So again, that's quite a common request. You think about resources that might be useful for the community or internally for staff potentially. That's quite a common request for our interns to help with. Another very common request is communications or marketing. So we get that from a lot of different organisations, but in this case with Zonta House, this communications intern helped pull together their annual report as well. And then the last one there for Gosnells Community Legal Centre, it's quite a recent one. The intern worked on like supporting their development of a reconciliation action plan. So you can see quite a broad range of different projects. And I've just seen a question pop up. So is there a specific format for the role description of the project? Yes, there is. And if you get in touch, I can send you that. It's pretty straightforward. We use an online form, and within this, we actually have some templates built in. So if you do, for instance, want a research intern, an evaluation intern, a marketing communications intern, these are some of the templates that are already pre-built into the online form. So in some cases, you won't have to start from scratch. You can choose a template and then you can edit as you like. But it's very, we try to make it as easy as possible for you. And I can provide that information to you if you get it very easily. Okay, so for those who are really interested, are you ready to host? So the first one, I think you can all have a tick because you are all part of a government organisation. So the second one is about providing meaningful projects or activities. So the kind of projects or activities the interns undertake should not be tasks that would otherwise be done by staff members in the organisation. So they should be something that is would be additional, I guess, to core business, what your staff would do. And then it should be meaningful for the student and meaningful for you as well. It has to be something that takes at least 100 hours, but not much more. So if you think you've got a really big project, you can break that down into parts and potentially plan to have multiple interns back to back over different periods. That's quite a common strategy. Can you provide appropriate workspace and environment? So we do ask that students are hosted in your workspace office outside of any public health restrictions, obviously. And providing supervision and an opportunity to receive feedback. So this is just making sure that there is a supervisor available for the student to speak to and ask questions along the way, and also receive feedback so that they know how they're going with their performance of their work, but also hearing really positive feedback and valuable feedback about the way that their work is contributing to having an impact in the community or having an impact on particular people or on particular departments or work that you're doing. So that's really important for the students to hear. And if you can commit to doing evaluations for the interns, as I mentioned before, and a quick survey at the end of the program. But I promise you they are very, very brief. So just very quickly, this, oh, I went too far. This just shows how many internships we've had hosted within the public sector over the last almost 2 years. So the McCusker Centre and the Public Sector Commission signed a letter in winter of 2019 with the intention of trying to grow the internships that are happening in the public sector. And you can see that semester 2, 2019 was a bumper round, and we had 24 internships. But generally, over the last year or so, again, despite all the disruptions that COVID has caused, you can see how we've had a lot of interns out there in public sector agencies. And the next slide shows you a list of different agencies that we're already in touch with. So we have about 40 public sector agencies or organisations that we're in contact with, but these 26 listed here have already hosted an intern or are about to in winter. So if you see your organisation listed there, that means someone has probably hosted an intern before. So if you get in touch, I can certainly let you know what that might have been if you're not sure yourself. So a couple of little examples. This is Andrew, who interned at the Ombudsman, and I just love the quote here. So the staff at the Ombudsman WA are so dedicated to their tasks. They show me that there are people in government who really care about the people they serve. So that was a wonderful outcome of his internship, but I won't say too much because we are going to speak to Jane from the Ombudsman soon. And this is Lucy, who interned at the State Library of WA, who worked on that research project I mentioned before. And she fed back. It's given me first-hand experience of how solving complex problems can have a profound effect on not only the organisation that you're working with, but also the people and community that the organisation serves. So that's exactly the kind of, I guess, impact and that we'd love, our students, interns to have through their internships. All right, so now's time to have a chat to a couple of people who can reflect on their own experiences hosting our interns. So I'll just stop sharing the slides so we can see them. So Danielle, if you'd like to show yourself on camera and microphone, and we can have a chat. So thanks for joining us today, Danielle.
Happy to be here.
Great. So can you tell us in the webinar here, why did you first think to host an intern through the McCusker Centre program?
So I personally really believe in our responsibility to upskill the next generation of public servants or wherever they might end up working and provide opportunities for people in university. I was an intern myself, not through the McCusker Centre, but through other programs that are quite similar. And I just really believe personally that it's such a great opportunity and the best way to get a taste for career. Being within the organisation now, I think it's a really good way it's an opportunity to upskill your more junior staff in leadership skills. So more junior staff are often a really good supervisor for an intern because it's a fairly low pressure environment. They can they're more recent as well, so they might understand a bit more about the intern's perspective. Just a good opportunity for that. It's also a good way for the organisation to identify talent. So my first intern I hosted ended up being successful in our graduate program for this year. So that was a really good outcome for him. And he obviously got the opportunity to see DPC before he signed up and obviously liked us enough. I also think being government, I think it's also got this peripheral benefit in that it's an opportunity for government to support graduates into careers. So even if they don't go into public sector roles, it's still a demographic that does have higher unemployment rates than more older demographics. So it's just one little thing that government can do to give graduates a little bit more experience that might help them get careers in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. And do you want to take us through a little bit about what your interns did? So this was quite recent, actually, in summer. So what were the projects?
So we had Ellie in my team. She was working on an interjurisdictional analysis of all of the state's responses to recovery from COVID. So my team at DPC is the Recovery Implementation Support Team. We're implementing the WA Recovery Plan. And all of our work was focused on project management, but quite insular because the priority was, of course, deliver what we have, not spend too much time looking around. Having Ellie just gave us that little extra capacity we needed to be able to look at what other jurisdictions were doing and just kind of check in with ourselves and say, yes, we've got that. Oh, that's an opportunity over there that, say, Victoria is doing. And we briefed up to our Director General where we did find gaps or just interesting things that other jurisdictions were doing. So that was a really meaningful piece of work for Ellie. She it was quite interesting because when we first met her, we were a bit worried that we couldn't offer her a meaningful experience because her background was very science focused, and we thought, what can we offer you to make that useful? But there ended up being a lot of transferable skills there, and it also upskilled Ellie in that public policy aspect, which is actually why she had applied. She wanted the policy experience.
Yeah, and what about the other intern, the one that ended up in the graduate program?
That was Connor. He was with us. Actually, he started just before COVID hit, and we had to pause his internship for a little while we figured out what on earth the world was doing. And we eventually did manage to bring him back to finish his internship, although we did have to change the project because the unit he had been interning in dissolved. What did he do? He was, sorry, this is...
That's okay.
His original project was to look at public sector reform and a toolkit to help agencies implement reform in their work. That evolved into how we could ultimately set up our recovery team in a way. He was doing a bit of an aspect of the early thinking on how the recovery implementation team got set up.
Yeah, fantastic. Also very meaningful work.
Very meaningful, very scattered, unfortunately, but again, he stuck around.
He must have enjoyed it. And so what have been some of the highlights of your particular experience hosting an intern, and also what are some challenges do you think about it?
I think the highlights are seeing what the interns go on to next. I mean, there's the highlight of all the skills they bring into the team and the new perspective, and they're always extremely bright and very qualified and all of those things, but it's also nice seeing them then move on to the next thing. For Connor, that was the graduate program, and for Ellie, she ended up getting a role with the WA Primary Health Alliance, and I was able to be a referee for both of them, and that was really rewarding and probably the best highlight for me. A challenge, and I won't name names, but and I've had more interns than Connor and Ellie, so please don't assume it's one of them. It wasn't. A challenge was one intern wanted to do more hours than 100, and we had to not let him do that because we certainly didn't want to take advantage of him. Ended up having to turn that into a lesson on how to talk to your supervisor about scope and have that conversation if the work is going beyond what had originally been agreed. So yeah, that was an interesting challenge to have. The intern wanted to do too much work. And I think interns, that's something we always do need to keep in mind. We do need to not take advantage of them. It's one of the good things about the McCusker Centre, I think, even though it's unpaid, there's the credit that's being obtained and the real focus on delivering something for community benefit. And I think government, more than anyone else, does have to be very, very conscious of not taking advantage and making sure that the intern is leaving with as much as we're leaving with.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you had one quick piece of advice to pass on to people who might be hosting for the first time, what might that be?
Don't treat it just as free labour, as I was just reflecting. It's not just getting someone to add capacity to your team, although they definitely do that. It's much more, I think, about the opportunity to mentor someone, to see them start their career. That's the best part about it, I think.
Great.
So on what you can give as well as the work that's being done.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Danielle. And we'll go to talk to Jane now from the Ombudsman, but of course stick on the line just in case anyone has a question for you, Danielle. So Jane, if you can reveal yourself with the camera and the microphone.
Hopefully I have done that, yes? Can you see me? No?
Can't see the camera yet, so
Okay,
try the camera.
now we have.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Jane, for joining us from the Ombudsman's office. I'll ask you the same question. So, Jane, why did we can answer from the Ombudsman more broadly, but also why did you want to host interns through the McCusker Centre program?
Okay, well, thank you very much first of all for having me on here. The Ombudsman is personally deeply connected to mentoring future professionals and inspiring the next generation of future leaders in Western Australia and passionate young people. It's for this reason that we actually have a fairly extensive program of internships and clerkships over a year, and we host probably around 10 students as interns or seasonal clerks each year. Many of whom, as you are aware, Claire, come from the McCusker Centre. The McCusker Centre's goals and aspirations and mission have a particular resonance with our office, and I think the Ombudsman's goals, aspirations and mission align very closely with those that you have actually shown us on the slides. So that's basically why we love having interns.
Fantastic. And we worked out that since 2018, the Ombudsman's hosted 13 interns, I think it was.
That's correct, including our next winter.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So long-standing partner. And what kind of work do the interns typically do at the Ombudsman?
Well, can I first preface that by saying I can't go into any detail about the projects themselves because we are bound as our interns by the strictest rules of confidentiality. But broadly speaking, as I'm sure everyone knows, the Ombudsman performs a number of functions within his jurisdiction. That's spread over a number of teams across the office. So before we get an intern, I send out a request to each of the teams for any research projects that they may have, as you so succinctly put it, a long needed research project. All of our research projects that I give to all of the interns and clerks relate to complaints that we have received. And so there is that immediate connect with a problem that has been perceived by a member of the community, maybe a number of members of the community, but the research project relates to an aspect of a particular complaint. And what I've found is that the interns actually really value and enjoy being part of that connect. A number of them have said to me, I think like Andrew said, you know, it must be great to make a difference. And they are very passionate and enjoy being part of that process by making a contribution to something that actually affects somebody. So that's the way we approach it. I don't know in advance what those projects are going to be. I try and match the background experience, skill sets and interests of each intern. So if I have a number of projects that need to be done, I will try and match those. But sometimes we just simply throw an intern in at the deep end in a topic they know nothing about. That's part of working in the Ombudsman's office. I've worked in the Ombudsman's office for many, many years, and you don't know what's coming through the door. So each issue is a new learning experience. And what I've found is that all the interns have been completely ready to take on a new experience. You know, most of them, well, no, all of them have this ability, as Danielle said, they're incredibly talented, committed young people, and they have this ability to apply their problem solving and great analytical skills to any situation. So they've all enjoyed that kind of challenge. And so the project we tailor to 100 hours. We have strategies. If it looks as though it's going to go over, we have a strategy so that there is some, they can leave a project that's not unfinished, but has pointers for the next person. So I'm very conscious of making sure that they're satisfied with the projects that they have done. All of the projects result in a report. So they get some experience in writing the kind of reports that the Ombudsman might write. And that, I think, is another skill. Each organisation will have a different way, but that's something that we offer here. Sometimes, time permitting, we might also ask if they'd like to give a presentation of their project to the team who asked for the research. And all as part of their internship, I organise a briefing with an experienced member of each team about the work of each team, which is different. And so that's all part of the incorporated into the work. They sit in the middle of a team. We have an open plan office, but they sit in the middle of a team and they're exposed to what it's like working in an office. Many students haven't had that opportunity or experience, so I like to think that that's all part of what they can actually take away with them. I did make notes. Let me see if there's anything else that I was going to add. I don't think so.
We are also hitting our end of time as well as the webinar. So if anyone does have a burning question, pop it in the chat. I can always address it later by email. But just to wrap up, Jane, do you have any particular highlights you want to share, or any advice that you would pass on to others doing this?
I resonate with what Danielle was saying. I mean, the opportunity for the office is to get some valuable and research from a young person's perspective. We have a number of topics here that really benefit from that. So that's really, really useful for us. I maintain contact after the internship with a lot of interns. We meet for coffee or breakfast or whatever, and just talk about a bit more about what it's like to work in the public sector, what opportunities there are. For me, if I may take a highlight for myself, that certainly is a highlight for myself. Just to, the experience of having the passion and the skill of the interns here is huge benefit for all of us in the office. And just very, very quickly, to anybody who's thinking of hosting an intern, do it. That's really all I would say. It's been nothing but an extremely valuable experience for our office here, and I would highly recommend it.
Thank you, Jane. I couldn't have finished on a better point. So Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Danielle, as well. We are right at the end of our time, so as I said, if there's any burning questions, pop them in the chat before you leave, and I can address them in writing later. Otherwise, there'll also, I'm sure, be information sent out. You can go onto our website, which has a bundle of information and resources to look at. So thank you, Cherie, for having me here today and hosting.
So yes, so thank you, Claire, for giving everybody a bit of a roadmap for having an intern in their organisations, and we hope that you've learned some benefits from an organisation's perspective, but also for an intern in coming in and having that exposure and working in your agencies. Thank you as well to both Danielle and Jane for sharing their experiences in hosting them, and we hope that the information that you've learned today is of value. I know here at the Commission we've posted a trainee before, and some of you who are HR practitioners probably see the benefit of some of that when you get your diversity dashboard each time. That is something that one of our interns was exposed to very early on in the development. So I guess the key date for you all to remember is 20th of June in getting your projects in. So thank you again, Claire. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.